Welcome back, adventurers! So glad to have you with us again. We're picking up our quest right where we left off, diving into the final chapters of our magic scroll, the Labor Standards Act. If you're just joining us, no worries. But today, we are pushing forward into some really important new territory. All right, let's pull out the map for this part of the journey. We're going to cover what happens when work hurts you. We'll take a peek inside the Apprentices Guild, and we'll even decode the company's own rulebook. Then, we'll meet the guardians who protect your rights, see what happens when the rules get broken, and finally, look at some of the fine print and special exceptions in the law. Let's get right to it. Okay, first up is a really serious but incredibly important topic. What happens when your adventure at work actually leads to an injury? Well, that's where Chapter 7, all about occupational accident compensation, comes into play. So whether you're fighting a metaphorical dragon or dealing with a very real hazard at work, if you get hurt or sick because of your job, the ruler of the kingdom, your employer, has a sacred duty to help you heal. And let's be clear, this isn't just them being nice, it's a legal requirement. The law says you're entitled to 4 healing treasures. What are they? Well, first, your employer has to cover your medical bills. All of them. Second, if you can't work while you're getting better, they've got to keep paying your wages. Third, if the injury leads to a permanent disability, you get disability compensation. And in the absolute worst case scenario, they have to provide death benefits to your family. These are your rights, period. Now, you might be wondering, what if things are more complicated? Like, what if you were hired by a small contractor who was hired by a bigger company? Who pays then? The law is pretty smart about this. It creates what's called joint responsibility. That means if your direct boss can't pay, the main company that hired them is also on the hook. It ensures you're protected no matter what. Okay, let's move on. Our next stop takes us inside the Apprentices Guild. You know, for new adventurers, or as the law calls them, technical students. They get their own set of special protections to make sure they're actually learning a skill and not just being used as cheap labor. So if you're an apprentice, your journey has to start with a formal, written contract. It's got to spell out exactly what you'll learn, how much you'll get for a living allowance, and all your rights. And here's the kicker. Article 66 says your employer is not allowed to charge you a single cent for the training. You're there to learn and earn, not pay your way.
And this is a really crucial point. Just because you're an apprentice doesn't mean you have fewer rights. Not at all. The law is crystal clear that all the main rules about work hours, breaks, holidays, safety, they all apply to you, just like any other worker. You're a full member of the team from day one.
You know, every castle has its own rules, and your workplace is no different. If the company you work for has 30 or more employees, the law says they have to create an official rulebook. It's not optional.
And this rulebook can't just be a list of vague suggestions. The law is super specific about what has to be in it. Things like your exact work hours, breaks, and holidays, how and when you get paid, the rules for overtime, what happens if there are disciplinary issues, all the way to health and safety stuff. It's all got to be spelled out.
Okay, so we've got all these rules, but what if your boss, the ruler of your castle, just doesn't follow them? Well, you are not alone in this fight. You have some pretty powerful allies. This is so important to remember. Don't ever think you just have to put up with it if something feels wrong. The law is actually designed to give you a way to speak up and get help. Think of this as your power to send a raven for help. If you see your employer breaking the law, maybe they're messing with your overtime pay or ignoring safety rules, you have the right to file a complaint directly with the government or a labor inspector. It's your official channel to sound the alarm. And here is the most critical part of all. You are protected when you do this. The government has to keep your name a secret, they have to investigate. And your boss is legally forbidden from retaliating. They can't fire you, they can't cut your pay, they can't punish you in any way. If they try, that action is illegal. Now, rulers who ignore this magic scroll don't just get a little warning. No, they face some pretty serious consequences. We're talking fines that take gold right out of their treasury, and sometimes even worse. And these penalties are no joke. Forcing someone to work is obviously the most serious crime, and it can land you in prison. But look at the fines. Not paying severance can cost an employer up to 1.5 million NT dollars. Even just breaking the rules on work hours can lead to a $1 million fine. These are designed to hurt. But it's not just about the money. There's another layer of punishment, public shaming. the government is required to publish the name of the company, the owner, exactly what they did wrong, and how much they were fined. For a lot of businesses, that damage to their reputation is just as bad as the fine, if not worse.
All right, we've made it to the last part of our quest. It's time to enter the cave of special clauses. Because, like any good magic scroll, this one has some fine print, some exceptions for very specific situations.
Now, this is a big one you might have heard about. It's often called the responsibility system. Basically, the law recognizes that some jobs, like, say, a high-level manager or certain professionals, don't really fit a 9-to-5 schedule. So for these specific government-approved jobs, the worker and the employer can agree to their own rules about hours and holidays. But, and this is a huge but, this is not some get-out-of-jail-free card for employers. There are very strict rules. The agreement has to be in writing, it has to be sent to the local government for approval, and most importantly, it cannot be bad for the worker's health. It's an exception, not a loophole. So we've journeyed through the entire Labor Standards Act. We've faced down dragons and uncovered secret rules. What's the ultimate treasure we found at the end of all this? It's knowledge. Seriously, understanding these rules is what gives you power in the workplace. It's your sword and your shield. Your adventure in the kingdom of work is your own, but now you've got the map, you know how to navigate it safely. So what's the first thing you're going to check? Your company's rulebook? Your last few pay stubs to check that overtime? Knowing your rights is everything. Go forth, be brave, and be informed. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.